Aside from getting fitter and improving your threshold power or your explosive power for short climbs, how are you going to make sure that you're climbing to the best of your ability? Well, it's increasingly complex because more and more research is telling us there are actually no shortcuts to be had by changing your cadence or in the saddle versus out the saddle climbing. So, are there any shortcuts? Or maybe, here are some tips on helping you perfect your climbing. You have a finite amount of resources when climbing. There's no arguing with that. How much oxygen you can breathe in and how much power you can put out. But it's how you deploy those resources that has a huge effect on the overall speed you can take up a climb. Now for most riders, an even effort is the fastest. Someone like Chris Froome is a perfect example. In the 2014 Vuelta, he dropped out of the lead group only to catch back on and then drop his rivals before the finish. Now having a power meter is undeniably really helpful in these situations. Even the most experienced riders can lose track of their own effort levels, get a bit carried away in the heat of the moment. But it is perfectly possible to ride on feel. The flip side of even pacing is the timing of your attacks. Now, if you want to try and drop someone, whether that's a friend or a rival, rather than just setting a personal best time up a climb, then it's likely that you're going to have to go full gas for a short period in order to distance them. And if that's the case, then you need to know what you're capable of and then also perfect your timing on the hardest bits of the climb if you're strong, and just after the hardest bits if you're less so. Now, that ability to go hard and then recover comes more easily to some people than others, but regardless of that fact, it's always worth trying to train it if you're competitive and you want to be the first to the top. So a good session would be to ride at threshold and then sprint out the saddle for 20 seconds and then back to threshold for 40 and then repeat all the way up a climb. So, how much of an effect do aerodynamics actually make when climbing? Well, supposedly the positive effects of a specific aerodynamic bike can still be felt on between 5% and 8% gradients over a dedicated lightweight bike that might weigh a kilo or so less. So, depending on the type of climbing that you want to perfect, considering aerodynamics when you're in the market for some new kit might actually be quite sensible. So, think about your wheels, your frame, your kit, and also your helmet. But don't neglect your body position though as well, because climbing in an aerodynamic position is critically important as well. So keep your elbows tucked in, bent on the hoods, and sit in the saddle. So on the flip side then, what about weight? Well, when taken in isolation, weight doesn't actually make all that much difference. Now, if you save 2 kilos on your bike, that is a significant amount, and it's potentially going to cost you thousands to achieve it. But on a climb like this, which is Gibraltar Road in California, and it's 10 kilometers long, it's pretty extreme, it's actually potentially only going to save you a minute. But a minute is still a minute, and your light bike is also going to feel significantly nicer and make you feel faster. So if you've got the cash, then it's absolutely still worth doing it. But if you don't have the cash, then having a heavier bike is not going to stand in the way of you achieving your full potential when climbing. So that's physical and technical, but what about mental? Well, that should never be underestimated. One of those compelling theories actually comes from running. So the central governor theory states that it's your brain that effectively controls your fatigue levels in order to prevent damage to your body by you going too hard. So effectively acting like a rev limiter. Now, an example of that might be you're going up a climb and you see another rider just in front of you, and even though you thought you were maxed out, you can still just raise your game a little bit. I think we've all done that. The question is though, can you improve your rev limiter to release a bit more potential? And is your rev limiter set the same as someone else's? Well, there's nothing concrete that you can do, but that's one of the reasons why we do super hard, brutal intervals, is to try and improve our pain threshold and just nudge that rev limiter a little bit further. It's also really important to keep moving your boundaries. It's very easy to get stuck in a rut, particularly you do a lot of your riding on the same roads, and you end up getting stuck at the same speed on climbs, something that I think all of us do. I know I'm certainly guilty of it. So to get around it, we need to constantly set ourselves little targets and stimuli to keep ourselves moving forward. Now if you've got a power meter, that's absolutely perfect. You can ride to a set wattage and improve that over time. But if you don't, then that's not a problem either. Just time yourself from time to time up your local climb, and you'll be able to compare efforts and keep trying to smash that personal best. You don't have to change your training, but doing little things like that will help make it more effective. Just remember though, that actually this is quite a mentally demanding way of riding. So make sure you give yourself a break from time to time and just enjoy the fitness that you've already got. To perfect your climbing then, think about your pacing, make some tweaks to your equipment, and then most importantly of all, think about the psychological side of things. Now to see more videos in the How to Perfect series, why not click up here? Or to work on your descending, why not click down here? Then finally, of course, you need to subscribe. To do that, just click here. That's right here, where it's flashing. Just, yeah, there you go. Well done.